Resident Evil Village is finally out, and if you like Resident Evil 4 then you will love Resident Evil 8. I've had quite a history with the Resident Evil series. My earliest memories are of watching my brother and dad play the PS1 originals and crapping myself. Fast forward a few years and my dad thought it'd be a great idea to buy me Resident Evil 1 on the DS. Well, that didn't go too well. I got to a certain point and had to give up, and I developed a crippling fear of zombies that lasted for years. Even Thriller and the Zombie Treehouse of Horrors were too much for me. Now let's zoom a few years forward. The only games I've beaten in the franchise are Resident Evil 4 on the Wii, and yes, that's the best version. Resident Evil 7 on PC, which I fecking loved, and Resident Evil 2 Remake, which was the scariest game I had ever played until I played Subnautica. And the last piece of the puzzle is Resident Evil 8. I just couldn't say no. It looked terrifying, but the previous titles were so good that I just had to play it. So I managed to beat it in 8.5 hours, and it was some of the best 8 hours I've ever spent. If you like Resident Evil 4, then go play this game. This may be recency bias speaking, but for me, someone who was a little bitch and afraid of anything horror related, I loved the direction this game took. Rumours has it that Resident Evil 8 started out as a Resident Evil 4 remake, and I can see its DNA running through Village. And don't worry, this will be mostly spoiler free, there will be no mention of story, and I'll keep the boss fights out. The setup is very like Resident Evil 4. For some reason or another, the protagonist ends up in a village and there's some weird shit going on, strange creatures hunting you, and a plot bigger than the characters themselves. It's quite amazing how similar they are, and is that a bad thing? No, it's not. It's been years since Resident Evil 4 released, and the last actiony Resident Evil game I played was Resident Evil 5, and I think we all know how that went. I actually gave up playing halfway through my second playthrough. But back on track, there are a few things that I want to highlight about the gameplay that make it an amazing experience. If you like what you see, then please subscribe. I'm aiming for 1k by the end of May, so any help is appreciated. There's no better place to start than the guns and the upgrade system. The amount of weapons here is amazing, and I'm pretty sure that I missed a few of them. My favourites were the M1 911 pistol and the tactical shotgun. Ammo is scarce enough that you'll still need to land your shots, but not too scarce that a missed shot makes you want to reload the save. Once again, it's more actiony and it influences the level design quite a bit. Remember the iconic opening village sequence in Resident Evil 4? Well, Village has a good few of these and I love them. The opening combat sequence is so tense and it does a good job at teaching you certain techniques to make life easier. See a yellow bookcase? Push it in front of a door to block the enemies coming in. Or see a bag of flour? Shoot it to stun your enemies. The combat encounters were my favourite part of the game. Figuring out how to minimise the resource I use was addictive. However, I think there is one flaw, if you'd like to call it that. In Resident Evil 7 and 2 Remake, it wasn't obvious when combat would happen, which constantly kept me on my toes. But having these more actiony encounters with barrels and flour bags littered around alerted me to when the ambush would occur, so it took a bit of the sting out of it. Now I'm willing to trade the tension for fun combat as I prefer it, but that's something to keep in mind. And the most addictive part of the gameplay is the shop and upgrade system. Yes, this absolute monstrosity of a man sells you items and upgrades. An interesting thing the game does is that it rewards you for combat. Enemies usually drop valuable items that you can sell for cash to upgrade your weapons, meaning wasting the bullets was usually worth it. Choosing my favourite weapons was a tough choice, but once I did, I honed in on them, making them as powerful as they could be. Now the inventory really rewards you for having your favourites. Since there was no item box, I was selling weapons I didn't use to afford bigger and better upgrades for my weapons. Near the end, I had a really powerful sniper, shotgun and pistol, so I was well equipped for any mad monsters that would come my way. And there's a nice variety of enemies progressively getting harder that made using the weapons extremely fun. Now the last thing I would like to mention, and I'm pretty sure this isn't in Resident Evil 4, but the exploration and puzzles were really fun. The exploration was pretty typical to Resident Evil games. The game is littered with rooms and chests that have you constantly curious as to how to get them, and lo and behold, the further you go, you unlock items that will allow you to backtrack. It's my favourite part of Metroidvanias, and the Resident Evil series does it just as good. And reading that line back, it sounds like I'm saying Resident Evil is a Metroidvania. I'm not making that case if anyone is getting smart in the comments. At one point, there's a small bit of exploration that you can do with a boat, and it was reminiscent of God of War on PS4. Now, the puzzles. They're the perfect level of complexity for me, and by that I mean, not really complex at all, and I was never good at puzzles, so I never thought I'd praise a game for its puzzles, but here I am. They make me feel smart, but also don't work me too hard. I am pretty stupid when it comes to puzzles, so keep that in mind. My favourite being the fire-based ones, where you have to swing a lantern into other lanterns to light up a room. Well, there we have it. I just wanted to talk a bit about Resident Evil 8 and how much fun I had. It has the scary moments, but as a whole, it was more tense than scary. I really appreciate you listening to my ramblings. If you like the content, then leave a like and join the Discord down below, and I'll see you all on the next video.